I don't know that I can do that to my little blonde-haired, blue-eyed daughters. So you asked me about what it means to be unqualified. I don't know, but I think like, when my bicycle was broken at home and I was a little kid, like I didn't have the tool to fix it. I first had to build the tool that I could then fix my bike with. Like I wasn't qualified, but I had to find that qualification. And in everything that I did, it was the same kind of thing. So why wouldn't I think that I'm qualified to do anything?
Is part of that, as I hear you say that and thinking about this idea of doing stuff with your hands, is part of that because like what it teaches you, and I was thinking about your bike example there, is that when something is broken or when there is a challenge, you learn at that very young age that Casey can solve that problem himself. And that lesson of I can close the gap between what I want and where I am is like an overarching superpower for the rest of your life, where it's, the gap between where you are and where you want to be, the gap between Casey being a guy that's, making videos to the tech entrepreneur. You learned very early in your life that Casey can close the gap. And a lot of people never learn that. They think, oh, I'm unqualified to close the gap, or I don't have the skills to close the gap, or the money, or I'm scrubbing pots in a back room, I can't close the gap. But that's evidence, and evidence comes from, closing the gap a couple of times with a bike. And
I had a friend DM me this week, and it was something like, I don't know what it was, but it was this thing that was like how to figure out who high agency individuals are, something like that. And like there's like 5 bullet points, and number 5 was like the golden question. Who would you call?
From George Max, a friend of mine, former.
Is that what it was? Or it was like, who would you call if you're stuck in a Thai prison to break you out?
Yeah, so that's George Mack, who's a former employee in one of my former companies. He's a superstar. He's an incredible guy. He does tweet threads, and he did one like last week, which is how to spot a high agency individual.
And I think about that a lot because someone very close to me couldn't find his partner. He couldn't find his wife. And in a moment of panic, he thought she had been kidnapped. And he's thousands of miles away from me. And he didn't know what to do. And he called me in that moment. He was like, what do I do? And I was like, give me all of the information. And he gave me all the information. And I was like, I need more. And I'm like asking him all these questions. I'm writing it all down. And then I'm like, what are you doing right now? And he's like, I'm going to the police station. I was like, do not go to the police station. Here's what they're going to do. And I was like, this is why you don't do that. Here are the things you can do to be effective. Call the bank, find out when her last transaction was, figure out what her password is on her iCloud account. And like going through all these facts, like do all that and call me back. And then I hung up with him and I'm like, how do I solve this problem? And there was never a moment of, is there someone that can solve this problem that's not me? It was that thing that's like says, it's either in Lockheed Martin or at NASA where it says in like 100-foot letters, it won't fail because of me. Like that's what that moment was. It was like, no, I'm the only person who can solve this right now. And like, sure enough, the next phone call that I called him, it was very Jason Bourne, but I called him like 11 minutes later.